My guest today is a Tony Award winner and an amazing performer on stage and screen. She is also the director of Empire the Musical, which runs through September 22nd at New World Stages in New York City. The one and only Cady Huffman. Cady, thank you so much for joining me today. And I want to start off talking about Empire. How did directing this musical come about?
Okay, Sam. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. I was this musical has been around for more than 20 years. And I think 13 or 14 years old. 13 or 14 years old. 13 or 14 years ago, I did a reading of it for Lincoln Center. We did like a workshop, and I was an actor in it. So 13 years later, I get a phone call from one of the writers who says, "Hey, Cady, we loved what you did 13 years, but more than that." I'm sorry, Sam. I have just been doing an audition. I have all my beat on for a home. We all shoot our auditions at home now. So I was busy editing when I had to get on this call. And so I think I'm a little kerfluffled thinking about how I'm going to edit that video instead of focusing on you. So let me just take a second, take a deep breath, start over again. All right. So anyway, Empire. Yeah, it's a musical that's been around for more than 20 years. And 13 or 14 years ago, I was a performer in a workshop for Lincoln Center. 13, 14 years later, one of the writers calls me and says, "Hey, Cady, we loved what you did all those years ago, but more than that, we loved what you said all those years ago. We know that you're directing now. Would you like to direct it?" And that was December 2023. And I was like, "Well, let's meet for coffee and, talk about it." So apparently what I said 13, 14 years ago was, "If you write less, I can do more." So however that translated to them, it translated to them as, something they needed to hear. So in December, we sort of started diving into the latest version of the script and doing some dramaturgy on it. We did a very informal reading of it up here in Connecticut. And then we did what they call a 29-hour reading in New York, which is more of a professional reading where you cast it and use New York performers. It went well. It's a very large musical. It's a very complicated musical. So it went well. And then just a few weeks later, they said, "We got a theater. We're going off Broadway." I was like, "Well, that seems awfully fast." But I said, "Yeah, of course I want to do it." It was a massive undertaking and, no time to prepare. Everybody just wants to be in New York City. So there we were, rehearsing a musical to go into New World Stages in New York City. And it was exhausting. I got COVID during tech and previews, and I hired my friend Lorna Ventura to choreograph it. So, I mean, it was just so last minute, but, I think our final product is pretty darn great.
Mm. And you've directed many other productions. What are some things that have been unique to the experience of directing Empire?
Well, that it is brand new and that we made a lot of changes over the rehearsal period. I mean, as an actor, I have done several original works. As a director, I mostly get handed an established piece. I'm doing something that's already been directed on Broadway, already been directed around the country, and then I just put my spin on it. But this was a very true, new musical that needed a lot of adjusting. And so every day was, we restructured pieces of acts and switch things around. And I mean, it was just a constant honing of the piece, which, as I say, I was used to as an actor. It was new for me as a director.
Mm. Now, for anyone watching this who's interested in seeing Empire the Musical, without spoiling anything, of course, what makes this show special?
Well, what I love about this show is it celebrates workers. You know, like my grandfather dug the New York City subways when as a teenager. And the Empire State Building was built by immigrants, and most notably by Mohawk Native Americans. And they got this whole lore around them for being able to walk the high beams and fearlessly. You know, we got to include our main family is a Mohawk Native American family, which I can't think of another uh, American musical that even has a strong Native American character in it. So we got to design this around a culture that I find extremely interesting. And I got to talk with Mohawk consultants who absolutely kept me from mistakes I would have made as a white person, you know, trying to guess what a Mohawk might be. They were just lovely. Oh my God, like such funny, wonderful people. Learning that culture was really important to me. But celebrating those workers, the ones whose names are not on buildings and who risked their lives. You know, this is the Empire State Building was built from 1930 to 1931 in 14 months during the Great Depression. So it's a story about, you know, these workers, immigrants, and building something great while the entire country is down, you know, and bringing uh, hope. It's also about ego and why do you build tall buildings in the first place? And, you know, this the idea of leaving your mark. So we have a lot of different points of view. We go back and forth between 1976 and 1930 because our main character, Sylvie, our central character, is a Mohawk woman whose father died on the building. So she's sort of investigating, going back and investigating how that all happened, you know.
I think it's great that of course you're entertaining audiences, of course, but you're also showing them history as well.
Yes, and it is kind of the fun part of it and a very challenging part of it because you do want to get the history right. And it's full of such great history, but you don't want it to be a history lesson. You know, you can't be
Right.
there to learn about the Empire State Building as much as you want to be taken on an emotional journey and a fun journey and, you know, lots of singing and dancing because that's why we go to musicals anyway, right? Right.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Finding that balance.
Yes, exactly. Right. I mean, musicals are hard, Sam. They're very hard to write, very hard to create. I think people think of them as very cute. And then it's like, oh, well, this little cute thing you're watching just requires so much energy. And I mean, it seems an impossible task. And then somehow it goes on stage.
Let's get into a bit of your background now. You grew up in an Italian household with your two older brothers, your mother, grandmother, and I read that home-cooked meals were very important for you growing up. I got to ask, what were some of your favorite dishes from your childhood?
Well, absolutely. I am culturally Italian, and my grandmother 100% Italian, and that's who I grew up with my mom and my brothers. And she would do an overnight pasta sauce, you know, a red sauce. And but her big thing was pasta vazul, which is a ham-based soup with beans and pasta in it. We were so dumb not to get this recipe from her. My cousin and I are still talking about it, still talking about her pasta vazul and trying to figure out exactly what she did. But that was the big one for me. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Always, you know, it was the 1970s. There wasn't a lot of, I tell you, we would just beg, like, oh, please, let's go to Jack in the Box or something. Oh, great. We'd get it. I mean, like, ooh, this is terrible. Or we'd want a TV dinner just because TV dinners were new and so cool looking, and we'd be like, "Oh, this is awful." Yeah, so I was very fortunate to grow up in a home where we ate fresh food.
Mm. And I think it's really cool that food has really continued to be a big part of your life. I mean, of course, you did the Iron Chef thing for quite a few years, and then you did a solo show, and She Can Cook Too, which I read about. So you
Uh,
definitely have a passion for it.
well, Sam, you have done your homework. That show, it got called And She Can Cook Too. We certainly did, but really the real title was Hungry and Horny. So it was about food and sex, really. But And She Can Cook Too became the title that we could take anywhere because I mean, I thought it was funny, hungry and horny, but apparently other people were threatened by it. But yeah, it was a super fun show to put together. I think maybe my second or third one woman show. Yeah, it's always fun to put those together and figure out where you are at any time in your life and put that out for people. But yeah, definitely food remains. I don't know why my life I always end up hanging out with people who want to cook for me. So I love to eat.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, and just during your childhood, I mean, you really did anything to just get out of the house. You were super busy.
Oh,
I mean, it's amazing.
you've been reading some interviews. I did. I lived in an environment that was very chaotic and full of magic. And I just wanted to do anything to not be there for whatever reason as a kid. So I did a lot of classes, acting, singing, dancing. I started my first acting class was at 6. My first ballet class was at 7, and my first classical voice lesson was at 9. And just did those religiously throughout my childhood, as well as cheerleading and drill team, and everything. I was junior class treasurer, and I just was sort of one of those kids that needed to be doing something constantly.
Mm. Yeah, and as you mentioned, you started studying ballet when you were 7, and you've said that ballet was really the first love of your life. So how did you first get interested in that specifically?
I sort of was born doing it. There's definitely pictures of me pre-classes where I'm standing in first position and, dancing around. And my mother says I just came out, dancing and begging her. I think a little friend of mine may have been going to dance class. And I, from the age of 3, was just begging my mom to put me into ballet class. And my mom had been a dancer, and she had studied with School of American Ballet in New York. And she didn't think that place that my little friend was going was good enough. So finally at 7, she had found the right place to put me. And for my 7th birthday, it was my present was to start ballet classes. And those teachers were extremely important to me and remain extremely important to me. And there was a time when we couldn't afford classes, so I cleaned the studio. And that was great too. Anything I could do to just stay there doing the Nutcracker, doing ballet. I loved how it felt.
And you did ballet until you were around 40, is that correct?
Sam, who says I'm not 40 now? Um, I did yeah, 40. I remember the class I was in where my body just sort of went, nope, you don't get to do this anymore. It used to just be like my happy place. I could go to class anywhere around the world, any level, and just take class. But right around 40, I actually had abdominal surgery, which I had no idea would affect me the way it did. But my body went, ballet is not the thing anymore, which, yeah, I definitely miss that pretty much every day. I can still move, I can still dance, but ballet is something super special that no, the body's like, that's too hard, Cady. So I had to let that go.
Mm.
I can teach it pretty darn well, but I can't do it anymore. And now I'm old anyway. For Pete's sake, I shouldn't be doing that.
Since your ballet days ended, have you found anything that can kind of bring you that same amount of joy?
You know, I was just talking about this yesterday because ballet and like the first 30 some odd years of my career were very physical, lots of musicals and dance and then when that stopped being able to happen, it's like, well, now I have to use my brain. So particularly on Empire, my brain was like, yeah, this is what you want to do. Like my brain was so happy overseeing that massive thing and making those kinds of decisions and trying to see the big picture. So I'd say, yeah, directing and developing those storytelling skills, which are very based in movement. I think my dance training and my choreographic experience has utterly informed how I direct now. And it is, I hire people who are willing to move and, telling stories through physical movement.
Mm. Now, I've also heard that back in the day you were a cheerleader and on the drill team.
Oh gosh, yes. Everything I could do, Sam, everything I could do. Yeah, my ballet teachers didn't love it, but I did. So I love the little skirts and I love screaming at the football games and basketball games. Yeah, and kick lines. Yeah. Truly, Sam, I was just the busiest kid. I got very mad at my mother one day after I was a grown up saying, "Why didn't you make me practice my piano more?" And she's like, "Oh, Kate, you were so busy. I couldn't make you do one more thing." I hear you. Yeah, I was busy.
That's awesome. Hey, you're being productive. You're getting out there doing stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah, I learned much later, Sam, that other people didn't know what they wanted to do when they grew up. Like I was extremely focused on studying and being out there and performing and extremely fortunate that that's how my life went. At 18, I got a job and started working. It's a bit of a miracle, but yeah, I am I don't know, just my personality. I just have a lot of energy to expend.
Mm. Now, when you were a teenager, I saw that you did dinner theater in downtown Las Vegas.
Oh dear.
It was 12 shows a week, 2 a night, and the show was Sugar, I believe, the musical version of Some Like It Hot. So, how did
Yes.
that come about? How'd that come about?
Oh, I'm sure I just auditioned for it and I was taking jobs. I was 18 years old. Oh, God, I hated living in Las Vegas. I just hated it. Although I did enjoy gambling and I found fun stuff to do. But boy, I just hated that dinner theater environment and the sort of seedy environment of Las Vegas. Like to go there, visit, do some fun stuff, one thing. To live there, oh my God, with slot machines and every corner of every grocery store. And, I really hated it. And I actually left when my contract was up and everybody else stayed and they extended the show. I was like, oh God, 12 a week. No, thank you.
Mm.
Oh my God, that people would put their feet on the stage. They talked to us like they were watching television. It was, ugh. I hated it. But I guess you learn something from every experience.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. I can only imagine, working in Vegas, at that time, like I can only imagine just all the stuff that would happen. Crazy.
Oh my God, it was crazy, but it was fun too. I got to say, because it was before all these mega hotels showed up. There was a real strip. There was the Las Vegas strip was there, and I was downtown, not on the strip. But yeah, there was something really cool about it as well, much less like today, which is I do not, you never leave your complex now in Las Vegas. You go to your hotel and everything is there for you. Whereas my Las Vegas, you could walk around. And I'm from California, so it was the first place, it was, that's the desert. That was the first place I had to buy a winter coat because
Mm.
I'd never been that cold before.
Now let's get into some of the on-screen performances that you've done. So it's a really funny story actually. So I first found out about you through your guest spot on the series finale of the UPN sitcom Pigsty. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite shows. You
That is hilarious. Where is it even playing? That is so long ago now.
so all the episodes pretty much are just on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah, 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 and that's where I watch a lot of my stuff just on YouTube.
That's what you kids do, isn't it? Like YouTube becomes your
Yeah.
thing. That is fascinating. I had no idea Pigsty was even out there till you contacted me like Pigsty. That, yeah. Oh, other than what year was that, Sam?
Let's see, I think it was probably around like 1995, somewhere around there.
Okay. All right. So it wasn't my first television thing. Oh, it must have been maybe my first. So I can't imagine. I'd done a lot of commercials by that time and a movie or two. That might have been my first guest spot on a like a TV show. I think it was. Boy, Pigsty. And I believe I was being rather racy and I was sleeping with both my fiance and his son.
Yes, yes. Yep.
That's what I was doing. Oh well. Surprise.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's quite a crazy story for the final episode of the series. It's yeah, it's something
I think
else.
they hoped that it would go on, right? I
Mhm.
think they hoped that it would run longer than it did.
And I think you definitely have probably the most memorable, guest role on the show.
Well, thank you. I learned a lot on that show. I really did. There's like, when I walk in with my fiance and I turn to meet his son, like the director's like, Cady, you just got to drop your jaw like you do not know. And I was like, really? Does that seem real? And that's exactly what they use. It's like, like I was just dumbfounded and it worked. So it's interesting learning what works on television and film that you maybe wouldn't do in theater as much. It's they're all just so different.
Yeah, for sure. No,
And now I'm gonna be looking for Pigsty.
yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, and Pigsty, it's a multi-cam sitcom. And obviously, it's done in front of an audience. So I mean, of course, and you had tons of experience by that point. Just performing in front of audiences. So I mean, it's sort of similar. Sitcoms and doing like theater kind of stuff like that. Look kind of similar.
Yeah, I wish I'd booked a sitcom. I wish I had
Yeah,
that kind of money. But I have theater money. Yeah, no, sitcoms are definitely the most similar because it's a very flat medium and you do have the multi cameras, but you do not, there's no camera, all the cameras are forward and you are playing to an audience. So it's more of a proscenium. Yeah, so maybe that's yeah, I like doing sitcoms. I mean, I like doing everything. I learn something every time I work.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it would have been awesome, like if you starred, in your own sitcom. Like I think that
Sam,
would
it
be
can still
amazing.
happen. Why
Right.
not?
Yeah, I know. And why not, right? We should make that happen. I think it would be amazing.
Let's do it. Well, we made Cady did, so that's the closest I've ever come is having to do it myself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, for sure. Um, it's another very interesting role you had, sort of around that same time period. Uh, you played Dar Mullins in
I
the
knew you were going to
1990s
say that.
in in a
Space
in a
Marine.
Space Marines. Yes. Oh my gosh, what a
Did you
fun.
watch that too?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's
Not a
out
good
there
movie.
online. So
It is not a good movie. But I tell you, I had more fun making that movie than I ever have on any other film. That film was super fun to make, but I don't think it's very good. But I did. I played Dar Mullins. Uh, yeah. So what'd you think of that, Sam?
like I thought it was a blast. Like it's very cheesy. It is
It's
super
so
cheesy,
cheesy.
but it's
And then
fun.
we have machine guns on an asteroid that has atmosphere. It's like so confused as to what can actually happen in space and the machine guns, because I don't think we had the the money for real, like lasers or anything. So they just used machine guns, and I got to shoot a machine gun, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would have never guessed that you were in a sci-fi film, but it's there. I mean,
There I
you
am.
did it.
Oh yeah, I'm now remembering on my little outfit, very Star Trekky kind of outfit. Yeah, did that.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. You've played a variety of characters. I mean, it's a
I know.
pretty incredible.
Thank you. I've had fun.
Yeah, for sure. And I've also seen that you made a couple appearances in the Law and Order franchise. And you
I think
know,
I'm on 3 or 4 different franchises. I know that one of them, I think I was on CI, Criminal Intent. That was a good one with Joel Gray. Amazing. I was on SVU. I was on the original. Oh yeah, that was a good one. I was on the original. And then there was, oh, maybe I was in 4, but I don't remember which. Oh, Trial by Jury as well.
yes.
I swear to God, something I shot. I mean, that's like what you need in New York is to get that job. Theater actors need a Law and Order, need to get on Law and Order. I think it took me 13 years to finally book a Law and Order, and then I did a few of them. But yeah, it's a fun place to work. That is like a machine. They do it well. They're still doing it. Yeah, it's a fun place to work. But I have played a few different characters on different versions of Law and Order, which I
Mm.
I don't know why that makes me laugh. Like I've played like a little cop with like short, dark hair and uniform. I played kind of a ditzy blonde who was being interviewed, to speak against this guy in court, and then I played Joel Gray's kind of bosomy ditzy wife. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It
Y-
is fun. They can
Yeah,
hire me again. I'd be fine with that. Oh, and then I played a very sad woman whose lover had just been uh, killed on SVU. Very sad person. Had to, weep all day long.
yeah, and I noticed that so you mentioned being in Trial by Jury, and it was the very first episode of that specific series. And something that I thought was really interesting was you actually got to share the screen with some fellow Tony Award winners, like BB
Mm.
Newirth and Jerry Orbach. Oh my gosh, so cool. So, do you
So
have any
cool.
memories of working with them?
Yeah, and I know BB, because BB's a real theater uh performer. So we're friendly. We, certainly it's always great. I've worked with her on Madam Secretary as well. I can't remember if I was in a scene with her, but we saw each other during doing that. But yeah, Jerry Orbach, that was a big thrill. And actually, while we were shooting those scenes, Dick Wolf was on set, so I got to talk to Dick Wolf a bit, and I was like, boy, Jerry Orbach has Dick Wolf in his corner, right? Like that's somebody who created television around Jerry Orbach. I need a Dick Wolf in my life. But not yet. Just Cady.
Yeah, and when talking about your on-screen work, and I know, and we've mentioned this a couple of times already, but we have to talk about your wonderful web series, Katie
Thanks.
did. Um,
Yes.
where did the idea for this series come about?
Well, I had been hired to do a couple of days on another web series called He's With Me. Cute web series about a gay guy and a straight guy who become best friends. And someone recommended me to play a very fun character. What was my name? Barbie. I think I was Barbie with lots of blue eyeshadow and boobs, and I play the birth mother of one of the main characters. She's very funny. Um, so I did that, and Jason Chichi had written it for himself, was starring in it, hired me to do this, and then we became friends. And we went to lunch one day, and I'm like, "Well, if you're going to do one for me, what would you do?" And he said, "Let me think about it." And then we started doing these little interviews about my life, particularly in this business. And he wrote this wonderful season, very loosely based on, you know, experiences I've had being in show business. And we made me a much more bitter person than I am in real life, because who cares about a girl who's like mostly happy all the time? So we made her a little bit bitter, and she has a little, something that happens, and she has to go home. Oh, God forbid, go home and run a television station there with my nemesis, Betty Ann, who is Vianne Cox, who is a wonderful, wonderful actress. And I have since then worked with her and directed her in things, and I just love her. But we found her for that when we knew who she was, but finding her for that role was a real boon.
Mm. I think it's really awesome that you got to work with another one of my favorites on this show, Joyce Van Patten.
Oh my gosh, right. Well, you must be a Bad News Bears fan. Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
please. Joyce is the best. We were so lucky to get her to play my mom. Yeah, she's just great. She's just great. Are you a fan of Scott Adsit? That was another of our kind of fun gets for, I mean, he's a friend of mine, but
Yeah.
he came and did it. Like, shit, all right. Go Scott. He's hilarious in it. And Leah Delaria. Yeah, I asked favors from all my friends for that show.
I think you did a great job, of getting everyone together, assembling the crew, and it all comes together. It's fantastic.
Like, it's the hardest thing to do is ask people for favors and ask for money. And it's like, that is the hardest thing for me to do. But when I put my mind to it, and mostly my friends were like, "Sure, yeah, let's just do it." Like, "Oh, good, let's just do it, have fun." Yeah, it was a ball. I really like Katie did.
Yeah, now would you ever consider doing another web series or even bringing back Katie did for like a second season?
Yeah, we keep talking about it. It came out February of 2020, so we all went into the pandemic after that. Um, but absolutely. I mean, it would have to be the right time, the right place, the right time, because it is to produce and star and write, create all of that. It is a lot of work, and you don't make any money doing it. So it has to be a labor of love. And I've done other people's web series. I mean, did After Forever. Um, uh, yeah, yeah, I would probably do it again, but it would need to be just the right time and the right thing. Yeah. I want to know what happened to Katie and Betty Ann. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll just do a special, an after school special or something.
Yeah. Now, as someone currently in college, I think it's really cool that you've done some work at Western Connecticut State. You
Yes.
direct a production of Season's Greetings there. So, how did you first get involved at WCSU?
Yeah, I've worked at a few colleges. And it's just something I'm really interested in. I love the students. It is the type of environment. I didn't go to college for this, for performance. I did all my studying privately. I've gone to college as a grown-up to, learn things outside of show business. So it's fascinating. The young people are so energetic and so willing, and I have a lot of experience. So I love passing that along. I love finding everyone's sweet spot for courage. How do you do this? How do you get out there and expose yourself as an actor, and having there's a lot of preparation and a lot of self uh, uh, exposure. You have to find out who you are to do this. So it is fun to work with young people and see them sort of start to understand things about what it really means to be a performer and an actor. Yeah, I just love it. And I've worked in a few colleges as a not a I mean, I'm a more well-known actor than I am a well-known director. I take whatever comes my way. Gotta learn, gotta learn, gotta do, gotta learn. So regional theaters and colleges I have done, and yeah, absolutely, I love it.
Well, I can definitely say that those students, they are super lucky to have been
Oh,
able been able to work with you. I mean, gosh, that's like one of those things that it's like one of those highlights, big highlights. Getting to
Sam, thank you. I hope so. I mean, I hope I'm helpful in some way. Yeah.
yeah, and sort of going off of that, what would you say is the biggest piece of advice that you have for aspiring actors?
Oh, that's my, see, I get very bitter when I talk like that. But it's I gotta say, if you can imagine yourself doing anything else, you should do that other thing. Like the only reason to do this is because there's no choice in the matter. Like I have no idea what else I would possibly do. And there's many times throughout my many years in this business, I'm like, please God, if there's something else I can do, tell me what it is, tell me what it is, because it's very hard and you have to really love what you do or just be a complete masochist. Because there's great things and then there's a lot of not so great things. But yeah, it's interesting because I listen to what other people say, like, particularly uh male actors will absolutely tell you to say yes to anything. And I think, well, they probably don't get the same offers that women get in this business. We can get offered some interesting and degrading things. So if you can picture yourself doing something else, do that. And be true to yourself, and don't be a jerk. Trying to find the right word to say on your podcast. But yeah, don't be a jerk. But there's no one way to do this. Everybody's going to be in their own on their own track and their own telling, writing their own story. There's no one way to do this. And everybody wants to know the secret. It's like there's just no secret. The secret is you keep going and you keep working hard, and you learn to love all of it or you get miserable.
Hmm. Now, last question here. You've done a lot of amazing things throughout your life. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self about the things she would go on to do, what do you think she would say in response?
That is a really interesting way to put that question, Sam, because I get asked similar questions all the time, but not quite like that. Um, what would I say? You're right. I have had an exceptional life, and I've traveled the world, and I always wanted a good story. I always wanted to be someone who had a good story. I got out of my hometown at 18. Like I was like, I got to go do stuff. I think there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of self-doubt that didn't serve me. And I think it's just being young. Self-doubt is very everybody has it, particularly right now. I look at your generation, I just see a lot of anxiety, and a lot of the young people I work with are on anxiety medications. And um, it's if you can learn to love yourself, because the more you learn to love yourself, the more you're going to learn to love the world, truthfully. And if you're stuck, it's usually because you're being hard on yourself. If you're being judgmental of somebody else, it's because you're being very judgmental of yourself. So I might tell her, take it easy, enjoy, enjoy it more, and trust your gut. There's so many times where I was like, just do this anyway, even though I know it's not right. And I gotta say, almost every single time I do that. And also, I mean, I'm not saying that I made a lot of mistakes and I don't consider experience a mistake, but if I could trust my gut more than I did, I would.
It was Such an honor to be able to talk with you today. Of course, as a fan of your work, it was just truly an honor. So I'm very thankful for this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.